What is up, YouTube? It's your girl Evelyn, and welcome to the most ridiculous video I've ever made on this channel so far. It's not surprising that Aries is the first sign of the Zodiac, because there's nothing they love more than being number one. So my first Aries recommendation is The Novice, a dark, coming-of-age thriller about a queer college freshman who joins her school's rowing team and becomes dangerously obsessed with being the best, no matter the cost. My second Aries recommendation is Bruised, because if there's one thing the bravest sign of the Zodiac does not do, it's give up. And Jackie Justice is a character that should, by all accounts, give up. She's a disgraced MMA fighter who's been laughed out of the ring, abused by her partner, and basically becomes a mother overnight. But Jackie refuses to go down without a fight, and eventually becomes an underdog worth rooting for. My last Aries pick is Battle of the Sexes, because no matter the odds that might be stacked against them, an Aries will not walk away from a challenge. Battle of the Sexes is the true-life tale of the infamous tennis match between Billie Jean King and Bobby Riggins. It's girl power, it's feminism, and it's a battle for the ages and the Aries. There's no sign that appreciates beauty quite like a Taurus. Sure, they're practical and dependable, but they're also pretty damn luxurious. Which is why my first Taurus recommendation is Ma Belle, Ma Beauty, a film so aesthetically pleasing I considered relocating to the south of France after watching it. But then I remembered I'm poor. The film is a slow burn indie about the reunion of two women who were once in a polyamorous relationship. And honestly, just watching it kind of feels like being on vacation. My next Tauran pick is Reaching for the Moon, a movie about relocating to a gorgeous tropical locale, falling madly in love, and then building a stunning home in this new land. My last Taurus recommendation is Can You Ever Forgive Me, which is just as aesthetically beautiful as the first two films, but instead of blue skies and crystal clear water, it's cozy bookstores in 90s New York and Scotch neats in 100-year-old bars. Can You Ever Forgive Me tells the true story of Lee Israel, a biographer turned forager, and it is one of those quietly good films that feels more like an experience than a movie. I think I left my consciousness in a sixth dimension. Now, I'm not saying Geminis need constant mental stimulation just to, exist, but they kind of do, which is why my first Geminian pick is Perfect Blue, a film that toys with your perception. Now, technically, this movie is subtext, not main text, but if there's any sign that can appreciate this film, it's a Gemini. Perfect Blue is a brilliant 90s anime that was super ahead of its time about a young pop singer trying to shed her good girl image and pivot into a serious acting career. Unfortunately, she has a super fan who wants her to remain an innocent pop idol, and things get very dangerous very fast. Bodies, Bodies, Bodies is my next Gemini recommendation because it's a murder mystery that will keep you guessing until the very end. It's also super fun and never boring, just like a Gemini. My last pick is Gemini. The name of the movie is Gemini. This is admittedly a strange little film about a Hollywood starlet and her assistant, and it has a slight Mulholland Drive feel to it. It's one of those movies where nothing is quite as it seems. Now, granted, I did hate the ending, along with most of the movie, but I do think it will give that infamous Gemini brain a workout. My sweet, sorrowful, and moody Cancers. All they really want is a little love, a lot of security, and to be surrounded by family members that they like, which is why Kajillionaire is my first Cancerian pick. It's a surreal dramedy about an emotionally starved young woman, her selfish con artist parents, and the woman who changes everything. My next Cancer recommendation is Julie Johnson, another family-centered film about a woman in an unhappy marriage who falls in love with her best friend. And even though it doesn't have a textbook happy ending, I think Cancers, who tend to be long-suffering for various reasons, will relate to the main character. My last Cancer pick is Cracks, a period film about a sexually repressed teacher who sets her sinister sights on a vibrant young female student. And I'll be honest, Cracks isn't the easiest film to watch, but if anyone can handle it, it's the sometimes somber, for no reason Cancer.
Don't tell me not to live, just sit and putter. life's candy and the
Leos were made to stand out, and if you know a Leo, you also know that they're a Leo. There's no such thing as too much, and they are the ultimate performers, which is why my first Leo pick is Bessie, a larger-than-life biopic about a larger-than-life woman, blues icon Bessie Smith. And for anyone who thinks biopics are boring or dull, I promise Bessie is riveting. I mean, this film never lets up on the gas, and its 2-hour runtime flies by. Now, because Leo is the most confident sign of the zodiac, it's only fitting to recommend a movie about perhaps the world's most confident woman, Benedetta, the Renaissance nun who convinced everyone that she was Jesus' favorite homegirl. My last Leo recommendation is J.T. Leroy, a film based on the wild true story of a woman who spent 6 years pretending to be the fictional writer Jeremiah Terminator Leroy. It's a kind of unbelievable story that I think will appeal to the Leos' flair for the dramatic and love for the theatrical. Contrary to popular opinion, Virgos know they're not perfect yet, which is why The Perfection is my first Virgo pick. It's about two high-achieving classical musicians who meet and fall in love. But not all is as it seems, and the lengths these two are willing to go to achieve perfection, well, it's downright Virgoan. White Lie is my next Virgo recommendation, and it's about a young woman who's faking cancer, and as her lies multiply and become more and more complex, they also become less and less believable. And I think Virgos will enjoy White Lie because they tend to be very cognizant of how they present to the world, and sometimes that presentation might not always reflect reality. My last Virgo pick is Stranger Inside because Virgos are super goal-driven, and Stranger Inside is about a young woman with a long-standing goal: to meet her mother, who's in prison. So the young woman gets herself thrown in prison and slowly but surely begins pursuing her goal. The empathetic Libra just wants to live in conflict-free harmony with their soulmate, which is why my first Libranian pick is Our Love Story, a subtle film about the relationship between a late-blooming art student and a free-spirited bartender, who might not be as free-spirited as she seems. And I think Libras will like how insular this film is, because it's really just about these two characters and their relationship. My second Libra pick is Two of Us, a French film about two older women who've kept their decades-long love affair a secret from everyone. But when one of them has a health emergency, they are forced apart and must learn how to cope without each other. My last Libra recommendation is Veronica, a dark psychological thriller about a therapist who begins treating a young woman whose previous therapist has disappeared. And this is yet another insular film with just two main characters. And because Libras hate being alone, this is a film in which the main character is never truly alone.
Baby, make it rain. Don't let go.
If there's any sign that loves a good a good mind game, it's a Scorpio, which is why We Need to Do Something is my first Scorpinian recommendation. It's a film about a family who shelter in their bathroom during a severe storm, but end up trapped after the storm passes. And I think the determined nature of the Scorpio will keep them very much engaged in the story. My second Scorpio pick is one that speaks to their darker, more obsessive side. Allure is a trigger warning of a film about a deeply troubled 30-year-old woman who instigates an inappropriate relationship with a 16-year-old. It's definitely not for the faint of heart, but Scorpios are definitely not faint of heart. My last Scorpinian pick is The New Mutants, a film about a group of severely traumatized superpowered teenagers. And because Scorpios assume that everyone will eventually betray them anyway, I can't think of a better film that illustrates that.
Work hard, play hard, work hard, play hard, work hard.
The always busy, always fun, and always jet-setting Sagittarius is perhaps the most efficient sign of the zodiac, which is why my first pick for them is Duck Butter, a film about two strangers who meet at a bar and decide to bootstrap intimacy by spending 24 hours together and having sex every hour on the hour. Because if there is any sign that would agree to that, it's a Sagittarius. And because there's nothing a Sagittarius loves more than traveling, my next pick is Grandma, a hilarious road trip film about a grandmother grandmother trying to secure the funds for her granddaughter's abortion. The grandmother is also grieving the loss of her wife of 38 years while trying to juggle a new relationship with a much younger woman. My last Sagittarius pick is Appropriate Behavior, which follows a bisexual Brooklyn hipster whose life is kind of a mess. From grieving the breakup of a serious relationship to hiding her sexuality from her parents to being both homeless and jobless. And because Sagittariuses have a tendency toward recklessness when they're in pursuit of something they really want, I think they'll be able to identify with the reckless main character in this film.
I did it my
If there's one thing the dutiful Capricorn can appreciate, it's a person with a plan, which is why I Care a Lot is my first Capricornian pick. It's a film about a conniving lesbian who swindles the elderly out of both their money and their freedom. And although this character is absolutely deplorable, she does possess traits that Capricorns tend to admire, like industriousness and the ability to stay the course no matter what. Tar is my second Capricorn recommendation because if there's any sign with the mental fortitude to withstand Tar, it's Capricorn. And my last pick is a good old-fashioned predatory lesbian film. Notes on a Scandal, which is subtext, not main text, is about Barbara, a lonely teacher who becomes infatuated with a much younger teacher. But when Barbara discovers the younger teacher is keeping a less than legal secret, she attempts to blackmail and manipulate the young teacher into becoming her partner. I think Capricorns will like Notes on a Scandal, because even though they tend to be pragmatic rule followers, the rules they follow are strictly their own. The philosophical flower child of the Zodiac is a charming and lovable outcast, which is why my first Aquarius recommendation is Tove, a biopic about the creator of the Moomins, which are a family of bohemian-esque trolls who go on terrific adventures. Tove is a beautiful and artistic film about a woman who beats to the sound of her own drum. My next Aquarius pick is Aniara, a super dark post-apocalyptic film about a passenger spaceship that gets knocked permanently off course on its way to Mars. As existential dread sets in, the people aboard the ship sink into mental and moral decay while trying to find a reason to continue living. Now, to say Aniara is a heavy film is an understatement, but Aquariuses tend to think about the things that most people shy away from thinking about, and they have the freest minds of the Zodiac. My last Aquarian pick is A Date for Mad Mary, a film about a young woman newly released from prison who must find a date for her best friend's wedding. And I think Aquariuses will really enjoy how much of a subversive outcast the main character is. The sensitive, dreamy, romantic, and generous Pisces really just exist for one thing: love. So my first Piscean pick is the super adorable and wholesome documentary Bean, which is about Alana, a young woman who has lupus and has been in desperate need of a kidney transplant for 5 years. After Alana tender matches with Lori, a kind-hearted and upbeat cheerleader, it's not long before Lori makes a life-altering sacrifice for Alana. My second pick for Pisces is T11 Incomplete, a film about a May-December romance between a paraplegic and her home nurse aide. And it's a bittersweet tale about finding true love when you least expect it. My last Pisces recommendation is My Days of Mercy, which is about a sweet romance that emerges from the conflicting politics of the death penalty, which I admit is an odd mixture, but it somehow works. And even though the film gets occasionally gloomy, the passionate affair between the main characters more than makes up for it. That is it for the video. I want to give a quick shout out to my newest patron, Karen. As always, thank you so much for watching, and make sure to drop your astrological sign along with your favorite lesbian film in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.